Hey everybody, it's Thomas. It's Blood Bowl time once again. Season 5. I'm very excited for this season. I'm super excited. I logically am excited because more Blood Bowl. Always a good thing, but I'm really excited about this season because it looks like it's going to be great. I feel like I have to rationalize this, but I really wanted to play Elves this season. I really wanted to throw the ball around. I really wanted to elf it up. And in some ways, I feel like High Elf was the only team for me, in part because those were only elf teams available. But I don't like Wood Elves. I don't really like Dark Elves. There's a lot of reasons for that, and we're going to talk about them actually as we get through the league preview here. But High Elves are always kind of iffy for me. Pro Elf or Elf Classic is my chosen elf team of most fun, but High Elf is kind of like Elf Classic with slightly different things going for it, and I feel like this season is kind of a chance to redo Season 3. So that's basically what we're going to do. I started off with a very standard lineup, but that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about themes and team compositions and stuff. My team this year is the Daft Drunks. I very cleverly smashed together Daft Punk songs with beer-related things. By cleverly, I mean obviously not very cleverly. Some of these names I'm more proud of than others, like Demalt or Amber the World, Trappist Logic. Pretty pumped about that. Crescent Dunkel, maybe not. Something to stout us, though. I'm pretty pleased with myself for that. Either way, pretty super standard elf lineup. The other choices would be to do the two catchers, 2 rerolled build, but I feel like the catchers early on don't add a lot. It's not like Elf Classic where you get to start with Nerves of Steel. You just get Catch, which is not a bad skill to start with, especially on a 4 agility piece with 3 strength, but there's not a lot to it, and the linemen really have to do a lot of work on this team. So basically, I'm going to level up the blitzers as quickly as possible, level up the linemen pretty aggressively, and then once I start getting going here, probably start buying a catcher. My thought is by the time I can afford a catcher, because I'll buy an apothecary first, should have at least a couple level 2 linemen, and ideally level 3 blitzers, but more realistically at least level 2 blitzers across the board. Level 2 thrower would be great. My long-term plan is to hire both throwers. I know a lot of people don't like it for team value bloat, but I really think 2 throwers is great. You can build one to be super offensive, and you can build one to be more defensive with block and all that fun stuff. But either way, so that's kind of where the team is now. I'm pretty happy with it. I like the way this looks, and whatever. Let's take a look at the rest of the teams here. Come on, Blood Bowl. Dress up with Morella's chosen ones. He's playing Wood Elf. And this is one of the things I don't like about Wood Elf, is if you want to play Wood Elf, you have to make big sacrifices somewhere. Usually it's in rerolls, or in Jessup's case, it's in players. Now, I think not starting with a War Dancer is insane. I think he's absolutely bonkers to not start with one of the best players in the game. Tree is good, don't get me wrong. Tree is a great piece, and it's fantastic on this team, and it's like most fun option. But I don't like it without War Dancers. Wood Elves are very fast, but they're very fragile. No block on this team whatsoever, so he's basically being used these rerolls to do almost everything, and that's less great for me. War Dancers are really good. The sooner you can get a War Dancer to level 2, the sooner you have that leap strip ball monstrosity. I don't know why you would pass that up. At this point, assuming he takes the Apothecary first thing, we're looking at 3 to 4 week minimum. Well, let's see. Let's do the math here. It's 120. So realistically, you need 170 to make it. So he needs 3 weeks of rolling 60 or better, and even then, week 4 would be, I guess in principle, if he got 90 both weeks, he got 2 fame, and got really lucky, he could in principle do this week 3, have a strip ball piece week 4. So yeah, realistically, the War Dancer threat should come week 3, week 4, if things go well for him, and that assumes that the leveling goes well. So realistically, though, week 4, week 5, before you have a strip ball War Dancer, I think without that, this team is a lot less scary, and honestly, it's like a slightly more agile Skaven team without any block. I think this is a mistake, and you're trading that for a tree. Now, a tree is good, don't get me wrong. Tree level 2, get guard. Tree level 3, get grab, or multi-block. You know, there's tons of fun options you can get on tree. Aside from piling on, that one's not a good option. But tree's great. Tree's fantastic. But the tree isn't going to win you games on your own. This team is too fast to really revolve around the tree. The tree is just a nice blocking piece. And realistically, he's not going to be able to fight the more bashy teams with just the tree. So, I understand the appeal of the tree. I understand the appeal of 3 rolls. But I think if you're going to do tree, you should do like a 1 word answer, 1 tree, 2 reroll thing. Or you should do not this, basically. 3 rerolls means you have to cut somewhere. And usually people do that where they just have 2 ward answers or at least 1 ward answer. I feel like this is just so unnecessarily greedy on the getting a big guy to have a big guy. I don't really understand his theme things very well, but hey, that's fine. I like the names; they're great. It's fine by me. Jessup's lineup doesn't make any sense to me, but it's Wood Elves. They're pretty good. And this is what I don't like about Wood Elves, by the way, if you guys didn't touch on that. I just don't like that you have to make such huge sacrifices early on, and it really revolves around the ward answers and the catchers and the throwers doing well. The linemen are nice, but they're even more sacrificial than the pro elf linemen because you need them to be screening off so much more. So, we'll see. I mean, Elf Ball is good. This team is really crazy fast. Who knows? He might be fine, but without the block pieces, I think he's asking for a lot more trouble than it's worth. Mark with a Necromancer team went with Meat Market. These are all various sausages, which I'm all about. This team is fantastic. And Necro, a really fun team. Mark went with the hardcore 2 reroll all regeneration lineup. I like this actually quite a bit. The ghouls are pretty much flesh golems are fantastic players. I know some people don't like them, but they're amazing. And the werewolves are great too, and the whites are kind of mandatory. So I feel like this team's got lots of good spaces. You know, and honestly, he can easily afford a ghoul week 2 if things go really well for him. Rolls a 5 or wins and rolls a 4 without any fame differentials. Yeah, I mean, I like this. I like this lineup. I think Flesh Golems need as much time as possible. Werewolves are huge stars. Whites are huge stars. So getting all these really key positionals, I think, is really important. The ghouls will develop quick enough, essentially, as long as he takes care of them. 2 rerolls is obviously a little bit risky on a team with only 2 block pieces and a frenzy piece, and no real ball handling skills. But I think it's okay. Mark's played 2 rerolls for a while and can definitely skirt by on that. So we'll see. The downside, of course, is rerolls are super expensive. So when he gets that 3rd reroll is kind of a question. I would expect he'd probably get both ghouls before the 3rd reroll, but I could see doing a ghoul and then a reroll and then the other ghoul. That would make sense to me. But this looks good. This team is going to be fast to keep up. It's in a good place, actually. It's fast enough to keep up with a lot of the elf teams. We'll see how it does. I'm excited to see how it goes. Well, relatively fast, I should say. Greyduck, playing Dark Elf. Like I said, I'm here to talk about both the elf teams that I haven't played that I don't like. Going with the super standard classic 4 blitzer, 1 runner, 2 rerolls lineup. And this is kind of what I don't like about Dark Elf is that the positionals all matter so much, and they all do incredibly different things that getting them changes how you play the team, and you have to delay getting like your witch elves or things like that. So not a huge fan of this particular setup, but it's okay. I actually figured you could, I mean, principally you could go with 3 blitzers and no runner and get the witch elf instead, but I think all 4 blitzers is more important. The blitzers are probably the most important part of this team aside from the witch elves, so starting with them makes the most sense. I really like our theme. Kind of tired, come to the dark side, we have cookies meme now, but went with Keebler Elves, which is awesome. So all about this should be good. There's a lot of elves this season, as you may have noticed. I'm really excited for that. I love Elf on Elf Ball. It should be really fantastic. Andrew, playing Vault 108, and it's a Nergal team. Gary, Gary. I'm really pumped about this team. I really like this theme. It's a Fallout 3 reference for those of you who haven't played that game, where a bunch of Gary clones exist. It's really good. Nergal, as you may or may not remember, is my favorite team. It's the first team I played for a good reason. I love this team so much, and like I talked about before, there's so many good things this team offers. Andrew went with a different starting lineup than I did, but one I would go with now that I know more about the game. 3 rerolls, 3 warriors, and Beast of Nergal. That's kind of the sacrifice you make, is if you don't get the 3rd reroll, you can get all 4 Nergal warriors, but it's not the end of the world. First purchase is probably going to be the 4th Nergal warrior, I would imagine. It's like a week 2 purchase, I guess. From there, you just get Pestigers, and then keep going from there. But Nergal is actually really good with all these elves around. You've got the Disturbing Presence, and with the other hitting teams, you still have Foul Appearance. Beast of Nergal, absolutely fantastic piece. Disturbing Presence, Foul Appearance, Tentacles, Mighty Blow, awesome. Love it. Starting with 1 Pestiger is obviously unfortunate, but I like this more than the no Beast of Nergal lineups. I think the Beast is too good to not play with, and I think denying it MVP opportunities or injury opportunities is a mistake. This team is slow already. You're not going to make it any faster by adding more Pestigers. Yeah, obviously you could squeeze in more Pestigers at that point, but I think for 3 rerolls, this is probably the best lineup possible. At least it's the one I like. So whatever. Absolutely pumped to see someone playing Nergal, though, because I love this team. They're really annoying to play against, and I'm going to be sad when I can't throw the ball everywhere, but that's okay. It's totally fine. Really pumped about this. Should be good. Moving on down the line, Orville taking another Subo passing team with By the Power of Blob. He's doing an 80s cartoon theme here, which is fantastic. Yes, Launchpad McQuack. Okay, cool. I talked to him about doing Darkwing Duck on this too, which isn't quite in that same vein or era, but Darkwing Duck. How could you pass it up? So he's playing human. I'm kind of surprised he went with this route, because I sort of assumed he was going to do the really super standard 3 reroll setup, because I think 3 rerolls. I mean, this team has a lot of reroll skills, and the argument can be made, you don't want more than 3 linemen ever, and realistically, you probably aren't really going to have many linemen on the pitch for that long anyway. So I can see not necessarily going with a more lineman intensive setup, but I don't know. I feel like 2 rerolls is still kind of playing it tight. They're not that expensive long term, so it's not the end of the world. Just not the choice I would make, but it's still fine. You get an extra catcher for that, which gives you 2 reroll skills, so it'll probably balance out long term. From what Orwell's saying, he's planning to play this team with a kind of thrower, ball carrier, and catcher blitzers, which I like a lot. This team is really fast, and I think that's going to help them quite a bit. Humans are actually kind of in a good place, kind of similar to where Mark's team is going to be with Necro. He's going to have to kind of outrun the hitting teams and then outbash the Elfie teams, which with Dark Elf could be a bit of a trick, but I think is fine. Yeah, only thing I don't like really is 2 rerolls, but like I said, there's a lot of reroll skills on this team already with the 4 block, with the sure hands, with the dodge catch. I think it's okay. It's fun. This is actually, I think, Sid's lineup from season 3, if I'm not mistaken. It looks really similar anyway. I would start with the Ogre. It's the only choice. He'll for sure have his Apothecary week 2 as well, so that's kind of the one upside of this. One big upside of this thing. I guess the other argument could be made is he could also have converted some of these linemen, another lineman into a catcher, but I think 2 catchers is probably the most you want to start with. You need more stuff to protect them. So we'll see. Human teams are great. Mark is super happy, I'm sure, to see another human team on the bench. What else we got? Chris, taking a dramatic U-turn from Vampires. About mid-season last season, he said to me, what's the team with the highest armor value in the game? And I said, it's Orc. And he's like, okay, that's the team I'm playing. So Chris is going from one of the most fragile, self-destructive teams to a super bashy, super high armor team. And I'm kind of scared of this team because Orcs are really, really good. Orcs are like crazy, crazy good. And they can pretty much outbash everybody else in the league. They can certainly outbash Necro. They can definitely outbash humans. They can certainly outbash the rest of us elf losers. Well, not losers, hopefully. But they're a tough team. You have a lot of strength access, right? This lineup alone, 9 pieces with strength skill access. That's a bit intimidating, and not to mention the fact that they're just really tough. 9 armor value almost across the board. They're slow, obviously, but that's not really the end of the world. Chris went with a lineup I really like, which is the 2 reroll Goblin lineup. with a troll. I think that's definitely awesome. The goblin is a really good piece. Some people don't like to play with it, but I think the goblin is great. Troll is great. Even if you don't end up doing the throw teammate combination, it's nice to have the option in your pocket. One thrower, pretty normal as well. But yeah, I mean, you could go through like a 3 reroll setup instead, like swap the troll out and put a thrower in there as well. But I think this is fine. 2 rerolls is probably more than enough for this team starting on. As long as the Black Orcs behave themselves, it should be okay. Obviously, he's going to try to level these up as quickly as possible, which not easy per se, but still. Blitzers are probably actually the more important pieces to get up there anyway. But still, definitely our heaviest hitter. I think it'd be pretty interesting to see this team play against Nergal, just because they kind of go at each other. So we'll see how quickly Andrew gets things like Mighty Blow and Claw, how well behaved it is. I don't know. I like Orcs too, so excited to see someone playing them. That said, they are a very scary team. They're a very good team. So not super pumped about Chris playing another really, really good team, because bad things could happen to everybody. Last on the list, we've got Zach here playing a modern. Oh, I did not do justice to Chris's theme, which is some World of Warcraft related thing, Defenders of Durotar, and I vaguely remember, I didn't play World of Warcraft, but I vaguely remember some of these names from like Hearthstone and Warcraft 1, 2, and 3, and obviously Chris explained them to me at some point, but I can't remember anything. So Gazlo's like the Goblin Dude and Vol'jin Troll, whatever. I like Thrall the Thrower, I guess. I'm not doing this to judging justice, whatever, but that's fine. Norse for Zach here. He mentioned playing Chaos, and I very politely asked him to not play Chaos, because 5 seasons in a row of Chaos is too many. It's just too many for a league this small. From what I was saying, from what he's talking to me about, he's probably going to change this 1 reroll thing. He did not remember that rerolls double in price after the first match, so he's reconsidering it, especially because he's got 40k in the bank. You can just cut the thrower and replace it with a lineman and get reroll number 2. It'd make it identical to Mark's lineup from last season, but it's a pretty good lineup. I do like his theme. Yeti named Squatch, God of the Northwest Animals. I'm a pretty big fan of that. We'll see if he keeps. I mean, this team can in principle get away with a few number of rerolls. One is probably testing the boundaries of credibility. It means he doesn't have the flexibility to necessarily feed the werewolves and the berserkers balls as nice. Well, the berserkers, they have 3 agility, they can, but werewolves for sure can't be fed touchdowns quite as aggressively. We'll see. This team definitely has a lot of potential to do a lot of damage early on. The block skill across the board, definitely helpful, obviously, for doing damage. My concern for this team is long-term development. But we'll see. Much like Mark demonstrated last season, you can do a lot with glass cannon killing. So as long as that gets a teensy bit luckier than Mark did later on, it should be fine. So those are our teams. Overall, really good mix of teams. We're pretty much balanced kind of across the board here. We've got 3 elf teams for super high agility. We've got 3 pretty much bash teams. I guess you could make the argument Norse isn't super bashy, but Nergal and Orc are really bashy, and Norse is a kill team, one way or the other. They're kind of a hit and run team, but for most intents and purposes, they're a brawling team. And then Necro and humans are going to be our high speed, super punchy but super ball moving ability teams. Necro less so on that spectrum. I guess you could make the argument that Norse is kind of in there too, but I mean, I kind of put human and Necro closer together than like Necro and Norse. So got a really good variety of teams this year. Got a lot of different play styles that are going to be employed. I'm pretty excited. I think it's going to be a really great season. Let's jump over to the calendar. We can look at week 1 here. And some weird matchups already before us. We'll start with this one. We've got the 7 armor value wonders against each other. I don't like Jessup's chances here. But in some ways, I don't know how well Zach has defense against elves. He certainly played against elves last season, but wood elves are really fast, and I don't think he's played against a team that isn't Skaven that's as fast. We'll see. Assuming that he gets the second reroll, no one's going to get anything, obviously. And at that point, I do really like this team's chances against no-block elves. Yeti with Claw can, in principle, really wreck the tree, too. So this is kind of the worst-case scenario matchup for Jessup in a lot of ways. Really block-intensive team. that can mess with what he's basically sacrificing everything for, which is the tree. So we'll see. Obviously, the ability to move the ball is pretty critical, and this team can certainly do that, especially with taking the thrower, which I like. But the hitting game is going to be a problem. So we'll see how cooperative the armor value is for both these teams. That's kind of the big question here. I'm going to give the edge to Jessup, even with the heavy block skills on Zach's team. I think that Zach can certainly punch him out and clear the board pretty hard, but if he doesn't do it significantly, the Elves can still move the ball pretty quickly, and Zach's defense, at least at the end of last season, wasn't super polished up yet, so we'll see. He was also playing a relatively slower team, so maybe things will be a little different. Should be a fun matchup to watch one way or the other, but I think Jessup will win this one overall. Let's take a look here. Oh, Nergal versus Necro. I'm sure Mark is super pumped about this. This is a tough one because of the werewolves. The werewolves are so much faster than anything the Nergal team can do. I mean, the fastest piece, right, is 6 MA on your Pestiger, and that's pretty good, but the werewolves' normal movement allowance is 3 more than the Pestigers. So that means that they can move 1 square past the double GFI. So we're going to basically start 2 squares back and make sure you can guarantee a werewolf won't be touched by a Pestiger. And that doesn't mean the one Pestiger doesn't get tied up. Pieces of Nergal could be a factor here, and then it could tie up the werewolves, but that's a big if. That said, Andrew definitely has the stronger punching game. He's got a lot more stronger pieces. He's got a pretty reliable 4-strength blitz. The Rotters are pretty good pieces. Yes, they've got decay, blah, 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 whatever. They're still 8 armor value pieces. They're fragile when they get hurt, but you still have to get there. Mark doesn't have any Mighty Blow pieces right now, so kind of a best case scenario week for Andrew in a lot of ways. The Stink will impede handoff opportunities to werewolves. The Disturbing Presence means that a werewolf will have to pick up the ball and run it around to do a handoff, or just run the ball all the way in, which is the more likely outcome with 2 rerolls, honestly. So, tough matchup for Mark, I think. He's going to have to rely on the speed of the werewolves a lot. He's going to have to use on the blocking power of the whites. And he's really going to have to hope that the flesh golems don't get bullied by the stronger pieces. We'll see. Not an easy matchup for either team. No one will be raising anyone from the dead either because of all the regeneration and decay on the teams. So, a little sad there, but whatever. I don't know, honestly. I'm going to give this to Mark. And actually, these guys... This actually, I think, are identical matchups to week 1 of last season, I want to say. No, that can't be right, because I don't think Grey Duck and I played first last season. Maybe there's a swap there. I'd have to go back and look, and that's just not going to happen. By the way, these 2 teams definitely played. These 2 pairs happened last season. Either way, it's the werewolves are kind of the question here. Can the werewolves break out? Can the werewolves keep the ball? And even then, can Mark then stop the inexorable grind of a higher strength team? I think so. We'll see, though. It'll be tough with Andrew having no blocking skills, no ball handling skills, but you have 3 rerolls. Probably can get away with a lot. I'm going to give it to... I want to say Mark just because the werewolf bullshit, but I think I'm going to say tie. I think that that's the most likely outcome. I think each of these teams can easily get at least 1 touchdown from the other, but deciding who's going to actually get the win, tougher call. That's if the werewolves can do damage with claw, hilarious. I don't know. I'm gonna say tie. I think that's the safest bet. Then we have me versus Grey Duck. God, I love Elf on Elf Ball. I love Elf on Elf Ball because it basically boils down to straightforward punch out of doom with evenly strength teams or super passing time. Super passing time favors me because I have a really good thrower. Super hitting time does tend to favor Dark Elf a little bit more. My armor is technically a little bit better, but she's a lot faster than me. It's kind of boring because I'm saying I don't know how these games are going to turn out, but I don't. I have no clue because these matchups are all on paper very, very close. So we'll see. I think Dark Elf should beat me though, and I say that because aside from the extra speed, just the extra block is kind of a big deal. The thrower is nice. The high elf thrower is like the best thrower in the game. Starting with safe throw opens up so many more just insane passing options that you wouldn't have normally. But that assumes I can get my thrower onto the ball, holding the ball to throw it. Whereas the runner has dump off, which means even if I hit the runner, no guarantee I can capture the ball. It'll be a very hard matchup, I think, for me. Just more block, more speed. I don't see me pulling away from this. That said, I think I have more practice playing elf on elf than her. We'll see. I just don't think I will be winning this game. Maybe a tie, but I don't see myself winning this game. My primary goal for my team is to get at least one SPP on everybody by the end of game 2. That's kind of a big goal, an unlikely goal. Game 3 is probably more the realistic planning goal, but it's a good goal to have. I want to get a pass at least on all these linemen. Want to get a pass in the thrower, which shouldn't be that hard. Want to get the blitzers a ton of touchdowns. I want to get a level 2 blitzer for sure by the end of this game. I would love to get a level 2 lineman as well, because then I can get kick. Yeah. Short version, get back on track here. I think I'm going to lose. I think Gradic will win this game. Then we have Humans versus Zork, literally the classic matchup. Both these teams going for some styles of non-standard play in terms of build. Tough call. The human team is very fast. The nice thing about starting with 2 catchers is you have a very, very mobile squad. Everybody except for the ogre is 6 or faster. You know, all but 4 of these, or you know, more than half the team is 7 or above. Chris's advantage obviously is strength. The raw strength to just bully the ogre, raw strength to bully all the blitzers. It's a good question, honestly. If Orville can get the ball moving quickly, and keep it out of Chris's hands, and he can kind of clip corners and throw the ball enough around to stop Chris from being annoying, it's very possible Orville wins this game. I think that the way these teams are laid out now, man, there's a lot of similarities between these teams and a lot of differences too. I think Chris has a big advantage here, and I think Chris's defensive play is usually more consistent. So I'm going to say Chris is probably going to win this game. Very close matchup. I mean, it's the starting classic matchup for a reason. It's very balanced. I'm pretty pumped. All these games, pretty much, I said this last season, but I'm excited for all the games this season. All the teams are very good. All of the matchups are potentially very, very exciting, except for Elf versus Nergal, because that's just going to be a fucking chore. But hey, should be still be fun. Hall of Fame doesn't give me anything. So, recap my predictions. I think this is going to be a tie game. Oh no. What did I say here? That's a tie game. I think Jessup's going to win. I think that this will be a tie game. I think that Gradic should win, and I think that Chris should win. So, tie these two. Cool. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you guys next week.